Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's EBT and WIC Assistance webinar hosted by Congresswoman Norma Torres. My name is Jacob Randolph, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. We are joined today by the United States Department of Agriculture, the San Bernardino County Transitional Assistance Department, and the San Bernardino County Public Health WIC program to give you the most up-to-date information regarding nutrition assistance resources available to our community. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items to ensure a smooth webinar experience. If you, for some reason, lose access to the webinar itself, you can rejoin with the link provided in your registration email. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please type them in the chat box to the right-hand side of your screen. We will get to as many questions as we can in the time allotted. However, if your question is somehow not addressed, please contact our office following this webinar, and we'll have that information up at the end of the program. And with that, I would like to pass it over to Congresswoman Norma Torres to give her introductory remarks on Congress's work to provide relief for residents of the Inland Empire. Congresswoman?
Thank you, Jacob, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really nice to be with all of you today, even if we're meeting from a distance from our homes. I want to begin by thanking the experts that are joining our webinar today. Jesus Mendoza, Jr., Western Regional Director for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Andrea D. Brayboy, Program Specialist with the San Bernardino County Transitional Assistance Department, and Heather Wellens-Blum, WIC Program Manager with San Bernardino County Department of Public Health. I also want to thank all of you that join us on this webinar today. These are tough, trying times in our community. The goal of this conversation is to make sure that you know about food resources that are available to you and your families. For many of us across the Inland Empire, the SNAP program is the difference between food on the table or an empty stomach. Nearly 3 out of 4 SNAP recipients' homes in the Inland Empire have children. So this is as much about preventing childhood hunger as it is anything else. Protecting and expanding this vital lifeline has been a top priority for me the entire time that I have been a public servant. My office recently dealt with a very tough situation when a local food bank certified for the SNAP program in El Monte was having trouble getting the exact same certification for a second location right here in Pomona. This is the kind of bureaucratic hurdle that could have denied our community of vital support at a moment when we need it the most. Needless to say, we contacted the USDA immediately, and I stayed in touch with both the agency and the food bank to ensure that certification, that process went smoothly. As a direct result, I'm happy to report that more than 5,200 people are now receiving food from that pantry every single week. So from the moment that this pandemic struck, SNAP has been a crucial part of the support that I work for in Congress. The Families First Coronavirus Response Act was one of the earliest bills that we passed to address the pandemic. It had a number of provisions that were hard won and fought for by Democrats when we negotiated the package with congressional Republicans and President Trump. It included $500 million for this special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children, commonly known as WIC. It also had $400 million to help local food banks like the one that I mentioned a moment ago meet the increased demand. And it authorized the Department of Agriculture to approve state plans to provide emergency food assistance to households with children who would otherwise receive free or reduced cost lunch at schools. So we took these steps to continue, and we will continue to take steps to ensure that everyone in need of a meal as a result of the crisis can have one. But as you know, we have tough opposition in Washington, even for coronavirus aid. 2 weeks ago, I'd like to report that I went back to Washington to help pass the HEROES Act. another emergency support bill intended to build on that success we had in the previous rounds of funding. It includes a 15% increase to the maximum SNAP amount, which would help more needy families bring home the nourishment that they need right now. But while that bill passed the House, we can't get that relief to the public until the Senate passes it, until Senate Republicans agree to consider the bill and the president signs it. Hopefully, he will see through the need in our communities that this is something that we need to act on, and we need to act on it now. I give you my word that these are roadblocks that we will continue to push, and they do not deter me from the support, from fighting for the support that our communities need. I've announced more than $156 million, by the way, in aid to the Inland Empire over the past few months, from food security to small business support to housing assistance. And I have no intention of slowing down. And with that, thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to your questions and guidance by our experts that we have on this panel today. Jacob?
Great, thank you so much for those remarks, Congresswoman. I would now like to introduce Jesus Mendoza Jr., the Western Regional Administrator for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who will dive a little bit more into changes to SNAP and WIC and other food assistance programs at the federal level. Jesus?
Thank you, Jacob. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Representative Torres, for inviting USDA to this webinar. USDA is mandated with a noble goal of feeding Americans when they need it most. At the USDA Food and Nutrition Service, we are fulfilling that mission by expanding new flexibilities and innovative initiatives to make sure Americans across the country have access to nutritious food during this national emergency. Specific to California, on the CalFresh, as SNAP is known in California, the USDA has granted the following waivers and flexibilities. We allow California to provide emergency allotments to all CalFresh recipients, meaning that they will get on the maximum benefits and SNAP benefits that they can receive in a month without having to do the income deductions. We have also waived the face-to-face interviews, including the initial interviews, to allow people to submit a application without going to the office. And we allow the telephonic signatures, again, to make sure that the people don't have to go to the office, and extend their certification periods for up to the month of November. We also approved California to be part of the online purchasing pilot. There are currently only 2 approved vendors for retailer stores, Amazon and Walmart, but I know that the California Department of Social Services is looking to make sure that other retailers, such as Safeway and other approved, have the proper equipment to make sure that they can be part of it and people have more choices. Another very important approval for California is that we approve them to provide the pandemic EBT, or electronic benefit transfers. The goal of this pandemic EBT is to provide benefits to households with children who lost access to free or reduced meals due to the coronavirus related activities and school facility closures. Households who were part or who were receiving CalFresh benefits before the pandemic and whose children were receiving free or reduced meals during the school year, they will automatically receive an amount of $365 and be allocated to their EBT card. For those who were not receiving CalFresh or were not receiving free or reduced price meals, but believe that you are now eligible, please contact your local CalFresh office. There's an option there, but you just have to certify that they can were part of the school lunch. And this is a joint effort between the California Department of Social Services and the California Department of Education. So we are still, California is in the process of identifying, especially those households and children who were not part or receiving benefits during the school year to make sure that we reach, or California reach, all the eligible children. Now changing to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for Women, Infant, and Children, known as WIC. As some of you know, California completed the rollout of the electronic benefit transfer at the end of March to all of their local clinics. They're still planning or doing the rollout to all of the retailer and vendors, and the plan is for them to complete this by the end of August, meaning that they have to train the retailers, they have to make sure that they have all of the equipment. I know there are very few, and they may be able to complete this sooner than expected. Like the CalFresh, we allow waivers to be on the physical presence, that they don't have to be physical present for their certification, including to complete lab work. They also allow California to issue the remote benefit issuance. Having the electronic benefit transfer, known as EBT, it has been a tremendous help and assistance, especially during this national emergency, so that mothers and children and the parents don't have to come to the WIC clinics to get their benefits. There were some food package substitutions that allow for the milk and yogurt, whole wheat and whole grain bread, legumes, and tofu. These are some of the waivers that we have allowed in California to make sure that people continue to have access to food, especially in this time of crisis. So again, I want to thank you, Representative Torres, for allowing USDA to be part of the town hall. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for that presentation, Jesus. Next up, we have Andrea Brayboy, Program Specialist with the San Bernardino County Transitional Assistance Department, who will discuss more about EBT resources and other food assistance resources within the county. Andrea? Andrea, I think you are muted.
I am. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Thank you again for allowing us and giving us the opportunity, Representative Torres, to have a seat at this table and participate in this discussion. I think it's poignant that I came after Jesus, and I appreciate all of his information, because I'm going to piggyback on that information and how we've applied those waivers specifically in our region for our constituents. We have implemented all of the waivers that Jesus discussed. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in regards to the emergency allotments and the pandemic EBT numbers that we have specific for our county. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So again, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, known as CalFresh in California, is the largest nutrition assistance program in the United States. As stated before, it helps low-income families and individuals purchase nutritious, healthy foods. It is our nation's first line of defense against hunger and the cornerstone of all federal nutrition assistance programs. And that's why we do appreciate your advocacy for the program, Representative Torres. It's very important in our community. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show a graph to get an understanding of what happened during this pandemic period. So the blue line shows our application figures from 2019, and the orange line shows our application numbers in 2020. Now, as you see, there was a huge uptick between the month of February and March. We increased in our applications 87%. And that was specifically due to the COVID pandemic period in which people were not returning to work, and they were unsure of their financial stability at that time. It's poignant to note that the number that we reached in April, it essentially reaches the peak number that we reached in June of last year when we launched the SSI expansion, which Jesus is probably well aware of, which gave eligibility to our SSI recipients within the county. We had 18 months to prepare for that implementation. In this situation, we had a few days, a few weeks. And so we were able to respond efficiently and quickly. And we appreciate USDA's partnership and CDSS as well as CDE with that. I would like to note that as of May, we did receive our May numbers earlier this week, and our applications for May totaled 14,930. So although we're trending down, I think that may be attributed towards the unemployment benefits that were discussed last week and the other pandemic responses that the state of California has instituted through the CARES Act. But 14,930 for May is still very high for the average numbers of applications that we see at the Transitional Assistance Department. So we have been greatly impacted by the pandemic period. Can we go to the next slide, please? So again, as previously mentioned, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is HR 6201, that approved emergency CalFresh allotments. And as Jesus mentioned earlier, that raised the maximum allotment amount for the household. So no matter what their income was, they received the maximum allotment for their household size. So that provided immediate relief. So specific to the County of San Bernardino, we issued the March benefit allotments, which totaled $17,430,344 within our area alone, just for the benefit month of March. In April, we released those benefits on May 10th, and that totaled $16,120,429. So our May allotment is scheduled to run this Saturday night. Our constituents will have those benefits available on their EBT card Sunday morning, so that amount is to be determined. But we were recently approved by FNS to also issue emergency allotments in June for the benefit month of June, and those will be available on July 12th, 2020. So the relief is getting there, and the families are seeing that, and they're able to spend those dollars within the community, but also make sure that they can have the food security that they need during this tough time. Can we go to the next slide, please? And thank you so much. So now we're going to talk about pandemic EBT, which was previously discussed. Again, households are eligible to pandemic EBT if they contain an eligible child who, one, received free or reduced school meals through the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act, and two, missed 5 consecutive instructional days due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That is interesting in our community because the majority of our school districts qualify as a whole for the reduced free and lunch school meals program in our area. So there are a high number of students in our region that are eligible for the pandemic EBT program. Again, households may receive up to $365 for each child. And the California Department of Education estimates that in our area alone, there are 310,000 eligible children in San Bernardino County. Why is that important? So as Jesus mentioned earlier, there was automatic certification given to those students that were certified for the free and reduced lunch program and possibly already received CalFresh or Medi-Cal. Of those 310,000, 171,000 were determined automatically certified. So their pandemic EBT cards were automatically mailed to their households. All the household had to do was call and activate the card. However, that leaves a remaining 139,000 students that are eligible to this program that need to apply. And this is where we need your help. We need all the stakeholders to get the information out there that there is an application online that is available for the households to complete. This application is available to those households that may not have been certified for free and reduced lunch, but may qualify for the program now due to a loss of job because of the pandemic. That application is available at the website that is listed on this slide there. And that application is received by the California Department of Education. We at the Transitional Assistance Department have the information to lead our residents to the correct application vehicle, but we are not processing these applications. So we do want everybody to know that. Please go to this website and submit your application. The application will close on June 30th, 2020. And that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, Representative Torres.
Thank you. We must remember that date, 6/30/2020.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea, for that presentation. Our next and final panelist today is Heather Wellens Blum. She is the WIC Program Manager with the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health. And she will go a little more in depth to the WIC resources that we have in San Bernardino County. Heather?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Well, again, thank you, Representative Torres. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be on this call today and share some information about the WIC program. It is very interesting times, but I am extremely pleased to say that we have been able to continue providing services during this trying time, and thank you to USDA for the waivers and extensions that they've been able to offer us in order for us to continue providing services, which has just been a tremendous feat. So one of the things which Jesus Mendoza mentioned is we were so excited to get the new WIC card. That was one of the greatest accomplishments the WIC program has faced in a very long time, and we're just so excited that it's here. We were actually one of the last agencies to go through and go live, which happened at the very end of March. So we were right in the crux of everything hitting with the coronavirus. So we transitioned to the WIC card, which was such a blessing because it allowed us to offer remote services to our participants, and that no longer became a barrier for us. And so by the end of June, most of our participants should have received the WIC card, which will enable our ability to continue to provide remote services as needed, which we're just thrilled about. So that's one of the big things I wanted to put out there, is make sure that people know that receiving WIC services is so much easier now than it was in the past, and no longer do we have these cumbersome WIC checks that they have to cash at the store. It's just receiving our services has been very much streamlined. One of the huge components of our program is nutrition education and breastfeeding support, which we've also tried to maintain remotely over the phone. So that has probably been one of the hardest things for us as a program to adapt to, because we are very much promoters of seeing our participants and having that family connection and identifying other areas or resources that they may need in addition to what we're able to provide. And so that has been very difficult for us. One of the things we're working on, even with the state, is looking at how to do more video conferencing so we can see our participants. And we are looking at hopefully opening our doors soon as well. It's just that too has been kind of a monumental challenge in trying to figure out how to maintain social distancing and provide safety to our staff, but also our participants. So that's an aspect that we're challenged with at this time. One of the things that I'm not sure if Mr. Mendoza mentioned, but the USDA offered an expanded list of approved food. So right at the beginning, when coronavirus was really hitting its peak, a lot of our participants were struggling finding certain WIC items, which really was quite a challenge. And so again, thank you so much for the support with that, because by having an expanded list of approved foods, our participants were able to obtain foods that may not be the same brand that they were used to, but at least they got something. And so I'm very happy to say just this week we've assessed all of our sites to really look at, are our participants still having challenges in finding food, and that has significantly dropped. And so I think as things start to stabilize, finding certain foods is not still as big of a challenge as it was in the beginning. So but that expanded food list is available to us through the end of June at this point. And so we're hoping that continues to not be a problem for our participants. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the addition of the California WIC app. So that also came on board with the WIC card. And the WIC app is a free application on your phone that participants can, it makes their shopping experience easier because they can scan the UPC barcode on the food items to see if it's a eligible WIC item, which makes, I just really think it's improved their shopping experience. It also allows them to check their food balance. So on the card, they can see, okay, how much have I used up to this point? It also helps them find approved stores. So a lot of stores receive WIC and accept WIC, but I think when you're new to a community, or when, due to just everything that's gone on, a lot of people probably could be in transition. And so they're in a new neighborhood. They don't know, well, does this store offer WIC? And so that also is a mechanism to assist them in, finding a place to receive their benefits. It also gives them appointment reminders. So that's really huge right now because, again, most of our services are via phone, and us getting in touch with our participants has been quite a challenge. So they may call us, our call line is busy, we try calling them back, they're not home, and so that has probably been one of the biggest challenges we faced as well, is just connecting with our participants, knowing that that contact has been limited at this time. So those are some of the highlights that are happening here, in our neck of the woods. I really wanted to emphasize our website. So I had some slides, but I don't see them. But to write it down, it's www.sbcounty.gov/WIC. And our website has a wealth of resources, information. We have a whole section on the coronavirus to keep our participants updated on what's happening with that. We also put a plug-in for TAD. We really try to support our partners they're advocating for the same things that we are. And so hopefully you guys can take a look at our website to look at the wealth of information. Participants can actually, or those that are wanting to apply for WIC, can go online and actually connect with us through that mechanism in order to obtain their first appointment and receive benefits. And so it's a very multi-user website for both our participants, for health professionals, for other community partners to learn about different resources that are available to them as well. And if any of the participants are interested, or applicants are interested in receiving WIC, our 1-800 number is 1-800-472-2321. And we also are very active on a variety of social media sites. And so that's also another mechanism to receive information and updates about what's happening with WIC and what's happening, in our county. So that was, I really appreciated learning a little bit about TAD and their enrollment. And it pained me not to be able to provide some statistics about where we're at in regards to servicing participants in our area, because when we switched over to the EBT, the WIC card, or kind of like a debit card, we also switched our computer system. And so we're in transition, and obtaining that data is very difficult, and we're not quite there and being able to know as a snapshot. So that's one of the downfalls right now we're experiencing with being in that transition of two different systems. But we were on a state call yesterday, and from a state perspective, they are seeing an uptick in enrollment with WIC services, and it's something I suppose we could see and expect. But locally, I don't have those numbers. I do know our phone lines are very busy, so definitely people are trying to reach us, and we're doing everything we can to make sure we're assisting everyone that's in need at this time. So thank you again for the opportunity to really say some good things about what this program's about and what we're trying to accomplish. And again, thank you for your support and time.
Great. Thank you for that, Heather. And with that, I think we'll move into the Q&A section of the webinar. If you haven't already, please submit any of your questions in the chat box to the right of your screen, and we'll work to get to as many as possible. But I have some that were submitted from registrants, and I think this one maybe we'll go to Andrea first. Our seniors are becoming food insecure, some of them during this pandemic. And I know that you mentioned the Social Security or the SSI expansion that happened last year. Are seniors on Social Security eligible for food stamps, and are Social Security recipients eligible for any kind of pandemic assistance related to the COVID pandemic?
That's a good question. So yes, we are finding high numbers of food insecurity amongst our seniors. That is happening nationwide, but there is a huge disparity within the state of California, and CDSS is doing many things to address that need. So as of last year, yes, all SSI recipients, regardless of age, may be eligible for CalFresh as long as they meet all of the other eligibility criteria. Previously, before that, if you received SSI, you were automatically determined ineligible because of the supplemental state, the SSP amount that we provided for food, which was not a lot and did not increase since 1972. To answer that question, yes, as long as all other eligibility criteria are met, we encourage all individuals to apply for CalFresh. There was also a great program that was started based on the pandemic called the Great Plates Program, which is sponsored by our Department of Aging and Adult Services. This is for seniors who do not receive CalFresh. They can receive a certain number of meals delivered to their home. So I would advise anybody who is interested to seek out the Department of Aging and Adult Services, who can help with the enrollment into that program.
Great, thank you for that answer. I think that's really helpful for our seniors who may need assistance. Sort of going off, we have a number of questions about EBT benefits. So what can people buy with their EBT cards, and are there any restrictions on that front? And as we are in the midst of this pandemic, are people allowed to use those online? Can they use those in any different store? And are there any charges associated with those cards?
Hi, so that's also a great question. So qualifying EBT purchases include any food items. So you're looking at your meat, your vegetables, your fruits. It can also be used to purchase seeds if you grow at your home. A lot of people aren't aware of that, yes. Another great thing, which I would like to add on to the previous question, is that there is a farmers market initiative that we have, which gives you, it allows you to stretch your EBT dollars a little bit more. So as our community opens back up, that is something for others to look at and to seek out after their local farmers market. Unfortunately, you cannot buy your housing, your cleaning supplies, anything that's not necessarily food or groceries. As Mr. Mendoza stated, in April, we started our online EBT purchasing, which is open to Amazon and to Walmart grocery. So you may purchase online. However, there are charges if you purchase on online grocery. They do not waive your shipping fees, whereas Amazon will waive your shipping fees if you purchase $35 or more. So that is important to note, and that is statewide. But again, as he stated, the state of California Department of Social Services is seeking new partners. They have submitted some applications to FNS for approval, and so we anticipate new vendors coming soon.
Thank you for that, Andrea. Our next question, I think, will be both for Heather and Andrea again. What is the turnaround time looking like for CalFresh applications and WIC applications? With so many people applying, are people going to experience delays with receiving these benefits?
Heather, yeah, I'll chime in. For us, there really isn't a huge delay. We try to get, when somebody calls for an appointment, we truly try to get them in as soon as possible. When we were, prior to the coronavirus, we accepted walk-ins. So if somebody came in wanting to receive our services and just walked in, we would just help them on the spot. So we still very much have that same mentality. We're, with our appointments with new enrollment, we do have a specific class because there's a lot to learn about WIC and how to use the new WIC card, how to go shopping. So there's a lot of background information that we do like to provide to people that are applying for WIC. But I would say we're probably no more than a week out in trying to get an appointment for someone and being able to give them the card. And again, right now we are mailing the WIC card out to our participants. And so aside from any delays that are occurring in the mail system, I would say from the time they call to the time they have a card in their hand, maybe a 2-week period.
Andrea, I don't know if you want to chime in there.
Sure. We are experiencing high volume of applications, as I wanted to demonstrate in the graph, but we're still able to maintain our timelines. So CalFresh is a little different. The timelines for the application are determined upon the household circumstances and what they report. So there's some flexibility there. But the ultimate goal is to have all applications processed within 30 days of the application date. If you're in a situation where you qualify for expedited service, the Transitional Assistance Department's goal is to have your benefits approved and hopefully in your hand within 3 days. And we have actually been one of the champions for that within the state. Last year, we were able to receive an award for maintaining our timeframes for applications while launching the SSI expansion. CDSS recognized the County of San Bernardino for that. So one of the waivers that Mr. Mendoza stated was in regards to the interview waiver. So it's important for individuals to understand that if you apply, please provide your identification. If you're applying online, provide a copy of your driver's license or your California ID, and provide any verification of income that you may have. If we have all of that information, which is considered mandatory verification, we're able to waive your interview, and therefore you don't have to wait to be scheduled to speak to an eligibility worker. That's one of the great flexibilities that the USDA gave us during this period, and it's been able to expedite our application processing even in the midst of seeing a high volume of applications received.
Can I ask for verification of income, is that your check stub, or would you have to have a W-2 from last year's taxes that you filed? If you're an independent contractor, you may not have something readily available. What forms of eligibility for evidence of earned income do you accept?
So that's a great question, and we get that a lot. And basically, we kind of link the verification to the type of income that you earn. So again, as you stated, if you're working, then we're looking for pay stubs. If it's unemployment, we're looking for the unemployment stub that you receive from the Employment Development Division. We're looking for award letters from Social Security. Some of these, though, we can verify electronically. We have MOUs with electronic systems with unemployment, Social Security, SSI, things of that nature. But if we're talking about seniors, then we need to know, how much is your pension? How much do you receive in your 401k? If you're an independent contractor, let's say you're a part of the gig economy, then we may need to see your bank statement of what was deposited within the last 30 days. Or if you're a truck driver, for instance, we can use your profit and loss statement and your W-2. So it depends on what type of income you have, but you can always speak to any representative of the Transitional Assistance Department, explain your specific situation, and they can clarify exactly what we would need to expedite your application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea and Heather, for that. We got one question in the chat about SSI recipients and their benefit amount. Is their benefit amount determined, solely based on what they earn on SSI? Is there any kind of different formula for those specific recipients?
I hope that I understand the question. So CalFresh is an interesting program because everything is on a sliding scale, and there are a lot of variables to that. So it's not just your income that we consider. We consider, do you pay for rent? Do you pay for mortgage? Do you pay for utilities? Do you have dependent care expenses? There are a lot of things that we factor. So it's really difficult to say, based on what you receive, how much you would be eligible to, and if you would be eligible at all. So it's impossible to give case-specific answers in a situation like this. But like I said, there are many factors. So we encourage everybody to apply. If you apply online, if you go to our website, on the Transitional Assistance Department website, we do have a link for our online application. It will walk you through all of those expenses, which would possibly provide a deduction for your household. So we encourage everybody to do that. And if you have any specific questions, you can always ask an eligibility worker for additional assistance.
Great, thank you again, Andrea. This question, I believe, is for Heather. It's regarding WIC. So WIC is only for food. Are there any resources for diapers for low-income new mothers? Any other, any of those other supplies that new moms obviously need to get for their newborns?
Right. One of the things that we do offer are breast pumps to moms that are breastfeeding their babies. So should they have a need to go back to work, or they have a premature baby where they really need to pump a lot, we do offer breast pumps. I'm also excited to mention that we are partnering with First 5, and we just started a pilot, I want to say a few months before COVID hit, in doing a diaper delivery. So we started that. We're piloting it at one of our sites in San Bernardino, where we would give a box of diapers to incoming participants that just recently had a baby. And so it was very successful. And so we really hope, once things settle down and get back to normal to some extent, we really would like to expand that throughout the county and offer diapers at all of our sites. Part of the concern that we're grappling with when it comes to that is storage space. So a lot of our WIC sites don't really have adequate storage space to store all of these diapers. And so that's one of the hurdles I think we need to address and figure out, because I definitely think WIC is a perfect opportunity to utilize our mechanism for delivering needs of that nature, because we see participants on a monthly basis, So I'm hoping that's something that we can expand, and it's the diaper program is through supplybank.org. They actually are the ones providing the diapers, and again, it's a partnership through First Five. So aside from that, we do try to connect our participants through referrals as much as possible. So whatever is available in the community, and we really try to stay abreast of local resources. Since we are such an expansive county, there's a lot of different special things happening in different communities that we really try to stay on top of, so that we can make sure we make those connections with participants in their cities and communities.
Thank you, Heather, for that answer and that clarification. I think this is maybe a question for any of our panelists, as I think it applies to all programs involved. So people are obviously seeing the prices of certain products jump due to the COVID-19 pandemic, things like meat, other supplies that people use on a regular basis. People are worried about this impacting, obviously their benefits. They're not able to buy as much product with how much, maybe CalFresh benefits they have, or maybe when it comes to WIC, that may be impacting their benefits there. What sort of advice do you have for people that are concerned about how these price increases are impacting them?
I'll start. This is Heather from WIC. The way our food benefits work is it's really by quantity. So, and by I guess size, I guess you could say. So it's the prices, I don't feel impact them personally. It's more of the impact that may have on the greater program at large. But for the individuals, if they get a box of cereal, it's not dependent on the cost of the cereal. They'll get the cereal regardless. So does that make sense?
Yes, I think that's helpful, Heather. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't know if Andrea has any insight on that issue.
Well, I completely agree. When I go to the grocery store, I am shocked at the price level of food. And then especially when we started early on, you're seeing the prices increase and you're seeing shelves empty. So it was quite frightening. And I can imagine, I know my fear, and I can empathize with everybody else that probably felt the same. But I do want to remind everybody that we were approved for emergency allotments. So for those households that were working probably within our community part-time and receiving a benefit level that wasn't the maximum to that household size, they have received a supplemental amount in order to wash out the price overages. Unfortunately with that, that does not really help our most impoverished communities. So for those households that were already receiving the maximum allotment, they did not receive any more. And so there was a disparity there. But I will say that our local food banks, the California Food Bank Association, has been a great partner through this time. And they have used the funds that came through the CARES Act flawlessly. And so a lot of our food banks in San Bernardino County, we've built some strong partnerships with them. They're reporting quality boxes of fruits and vegetables and other items that are nearby. And the County of San Bernardino has a COVID response page with an interactive map that will provide you to your local food bank facility near your home. And they do have food there. So, and it's better quality than what they had before COVID. Don't ask me how that happens, but good things happen when you least expect it. And so we are truly thankful and blessed for that. So if an individual is really trying to stretch their dollars, my advice would be go to our COVID response page, use our food locator map, which is on the front page of that website, and they can find their local food bank. They can go there on the distribution times, receive the boxes for their household, which can feed up to a household of 4 for 4 to 5 days. So you can use that to supplement your CalFresh CalFresh and use that in tandem. Again, if you're a household with a child, you have pandemic EBT available to you as well. So if you apply for those benefits, that's an additional one-time allotment of $365 that can also get you through this time. So use all of the resources to your benefit to get you through this period.
Thank you for that information. I think it really explains and it puts into perspectives why we're seeing such an impact in the food pantries. Because certainly for those families that are already at the maximum and are not able to supplement that 26% increase in their grocery bill, that is one way that they're making ends meet. So thanks for bringing that out.
Mm-hmm.
And if may I add something, in addition to that, we have in the Food and Nutrition Service other programs. We have the Summer Food Service Program, and this is where schools and many sites will continue to provide meals to children up to the age of 18. And we have provided several waivers. For example, they don't have to eat the meals on site. Parents can come and pick them up in meals, and sometimes they can pick up the entire day's worth of meals. And in some sites, they can pick up either for up to 3 or 5 days worth of meals so that they don't have to be doing the back and forth. The children don't have to be present, and it's just an open site. They can go and pick them up. I will suggest that you contact or see where the local school district, where are the sites. And I know that the California Department of Education on their website, they have a list of all the summer sites where children can go and get meals. And I say usually children because usually that's where they go, but the parents can go drive through and pick up the meals in the grab and go situation. So that's another form to help with the budgets. We know that working at home, as I do it myself, we eat a little bit more than when we're in the office. So, and having children at home, I'm sure is putting a strain on everybody's budget. So like Andrea said, please look at your local food assistance programs, and they list a whole variety of programs where people can have resources to food.
Hi.
Especially if we have teenagers at home.
Exactly. I did want to add that our COVID response interactive map does lead you to the school districts as well that are providing those summer meals. So I do appreciate Mr. Mendoza bringing that up. I was actually in a meeting last week, and the majority of our school districts, High Desert and East and West Valley, Fontana, Rialto, Redlands, they're taking the lead and they're doing full 7-day meal service. So the food is available for the children on the weekends. They're serving 9 meals on a Friday to get those children through Monday. So they're really working hard, and they deserve that Time magazine cover. They absolutely do.
They do.
Thank you to our panelists for providing that insight. We have time for, I think, 1 or 2 more questions. There's some questions about the pandemic EBT program and who qualifies for that. With respect to disabled children and maybe children that aren't currently in school, how does it work for them to gain access to this pandemic EBT program? I know obviously it's done through the state, not necessarily through the county, but maybe if we can have some insight into that.
So the pandemic EBT eligibility is very cut and dry. Number 1, the household has to have an eligible child that was receiving free or reduced lunch through the national free and reduced lunch meal program. And the child must have missed 5 instructional days of school due to the pandemic. So it doesn't matter if the child has a disability. It doesn't matter even if the child doesn't have certain immigration status. The 2 criteria are that they were eligible to free or reduced lunch and that they missed 5 or more days. Now, again, there are many households who may not have qualified before March 15th when the schools closed, but now their household finances have changed. As Mr. Mendoza said, those summer meal programs and those school districts are still certifying applications at their serving site. you can go to the school district and certify your finances and your financial change to show eligibility to those programs that occurred between March 15th and the end of the school year. They can certify you for that, or you can apply on the website that I provided to Representative Torres's office. But we encourage everybody at this point, no matter what your questions are, apply, 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 and let them determine if you're eligible or not.
Thank you again, Andrea, for that. And I think that it will be our last question for today's webinar. I will turn it over again to the Congresswoman to provide any closing remarks.
Yes, again, I want to thank all of you for joining us today, in particular, Jesus, Andrea, and Heather for helping connect Inland Empire residents to these vital support programs like SNAP. If you have additional questions after this webinar, I want you to know that my office is here to help you. Visit our website at torres.house.gov to see the various resource guides available right there from the homepage. From testing sites to mental health support to information about local utilities, specific guidance for renters, veterans, small business, and much, much more. We have information there also in several different languages. So please sign up for our daily newsletter while you're on the website. We publish a daily newsletter with up-to-date information, sometimes on the weekends if we get critical information that needs to get to you as soon as possible. But every day we'll give you an update as to testing sites where you can get food banks or anything that comes up is there for you to have. And also don't forget that my staff and I are continuing to work nonstop to help support you. So either go to our website or call our office at 909-481-6474. Thank you again. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, stay home if you can, and stay well. Don't forget to wear your mask when you're out in public.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you to all of our panelists, and good night to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.